Welcome back, everyone, to my book channel, Jubilee Lipsy Unedited. For those of you who may be new at this point, my name is Jubilee Lipsy, and I'm an indie biblical fiction author. And I'm about to publish my 5th book of Sheaves and Stars. It comes out on July 25th on Amazon. That whole week will be the first launch week officially. And seeing that there may be people that are sort of joining for the first time that haven't read my previous books, and this is the first sort of introduction to my writing, I have seen a couple of comments online about, this is my first time. What is this book about? Why the story of Joseph? Because it is based on the story of Joseph from Genesis. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, about before we officially launch the book, why did I choose this story? If you've heard me talk about biblical fiction before, which is basically just taking a Bible story that actually happened, something recorded as narrative in scripture, and creating a novel out of it, adding, getting into the story, adding historical details and artistic license together. When I talk about that in the past, I've mentioned that it's for me to do it well. I believe that it's not just enough to just pick a Bible story at random and just paraphrase it. There's really no purpose in doing that. And also the process of writing and publishing a book is way too difficult and lengthy to bother going through that unless you are passionate about the story. So I really like to choose stories that have chosen me, basically, stories that have been things that I've obsessed over for years, and stories that I never get tired of learning about. And there's specific things that have transformed me, that God has taught me about it, and that I want to share with the world. So my best advice to anyone who wants to write like an adaptation of a historical or biblical book or story, is whether you want to write a film or a novel, my best advice to you is, if you're adapting something, make sure that it's something you are passionate about and that you have made yourself a student of that story, and that you're not just paraphrasing it or imposing your own agenda on it. And so this story, even more so than the David and Jonathan story that I began with in 2021, this story really chose me over the years. I cannot remember a time that the story of Joseph from Genesis was not a part of my life. Literally, I can't remember how far back it was. It had to be at least 8 or 9 years old, maybe earlier. It just really struck a chord with me, and it just was always there, sort of like a friend or, a sibling, that's just always around. You don't really remember life without them, and it's hard to even trace their impact because it just was always there. And over the years, this impact turned into something that, at first it was just in the background of my mind at all times. So I was always trying to learn about it, always trying to think about it and imagine myself in it. And it almost became sort of like a security blanket of sorts, that it was always, the story of Joseph was always in the background of my mind, sort of like pushing me to be courageous, pushing me to be brave, pushing me to trust God more. So it was sort of like a tool that God used to grow me up over the years. And eventually that spilled over and became, as I became more of a writer, that obsession became, me writing a little manuscript, and that grew. And at the beginning now I was like a teenager and growing up. And at that point, the manuscript was called Prince Among Brothers. And it was very rudimentary and very self-indulgent and just, me paraphrasing the story. But over the years, it went through so many different iterations, and it evolved with my growth. And that's what I love about the manuscript, is that the final one that's going to be published this month has a lot of pieces from the old manuscript, but it has taken on new life and has kept pace with my growth in the Lord and my growth as a person. And I am so thankful. Just let this encourage you if you're waiting to be published. Or waiting on anything really. I am so thankful that I was not able to be published back when I first started this whole thing, because the growth that I've gone through and that this book has gone through has been so valuable, and I wouldn't have wanted any other manuscript to be published. So back in 2018, when I was at home on medical leave after an accident, I wrote what is now the prologue of this book. And then in 2020, when I was on a massive writing streak, writing my trilogy, which came out in 21, I decided to revisit my Joseph manuscript and see if I could sort of breathe fresh life into it with this manic energy that I had. And I did, and that became what is now the beginning of Sheaves and Stars. And I still went through so many different mental gymnastics about what version to do and what I wanted to express, because the story of Joseph is so long and there's so many characters and so much meaning. I really wanted to keep it to, what do I need to express and what have I learned? But because my other book is called My Brother the King, and there's just a lot of brother imagery in that, I felt like Prince Among Brothers would be redundant. And so, and also this manuscript was new, it was not exactly the old manuscript that I grew up with. And so, even so, though there was part of it in there, I realized that Of Sheaves and Stars was something that title fit this manuscript better. And there was so much imagery throughout the book of that, and it really fit the prologue as well. And I'll do more videos about the prologue and about more specifics about why I chose the layout of this book. But more recently, the title of Sheaves and Stars has more personal meaning from Psalm 126, 5-6. And this is what I'm using to sign the book at the beginning. If I inscribe it for anybody, I'm going to use the scripture that says, those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. He who goes out weeping, bearing the seed for sowing, shall come home with shouts of joy, bringing his sheaves with him. And these scriptures match the story of Joseph so well. Literally, he dreamed about the sheaves and stars, and God brought those to him. But that has become a personal thing for me too, as I'm waiting on other things in my life and just coming into the knowledge, a fresh maturity in the knowledge that God is the one that ordains these blessings and interprets our dreams and leads us in our calling. As we acknowledge him and don't lean on our own understandings, he directs our paths into our callings. So look out for the book on July 25th and the days following, Of Sheaves and Stars by Jubilee Lipsy on Amazon. And remember that whatever dreams you are chasing, whatever sheaves you're waiting on, if he put it in your heart, God will bring them to you.